Welcome back to Fantasy Fix on what is this Heisman Trophy weekend. It's the one award that eluded our Marshall Faulk, who finished second in voting back in 1992. And, of course, Marshall comes courtesy of BowDogFantasy.net. Guru, you know who won the Heisman back in 92? No. All right, we'll get to that in a minute. All right, Marshall, who's at FedEx Field this week. I want to ask you first off, after rolling through the first 10 wins, the Patriots have squeaked by the Eagles and the Ravens. So I have to ask you, do the Steelers finally have what it takes to beat the Patriots?
Most definitely the Steelers have what it takes. And when you think about Dick LeBeau's zone blitz and the problems that it seemed that Tom Brady's had at the beginning of games as of late, if you want to count these two games, he's picked it up in the second half. Dick LeBeau poses a challenge, not to mention last week to watch Willis McGahee and the Baltimore Ravens offensive line just manhandle their D-line and linebackers. It just surprised me that they were able to do that. I look for Willie Parker, who has a much better line, who's a much better runner, to have a field day on the Pats.
Hey, Marshall, LaDainian returned to dominance last week against the Chiefs. Can we look for more of the same this week against the Titans? He got his starting center back last week, which helped.
Everybody was wondering what was wrong with the Chargers and why their offense seemed sputtering. Well, you have to understand that Nick Hardwick is a Pro Bowl center, a guy that makes a lot of calls in the passing game that was left on Phillip Rivers having to make those calls. And then in the running game, he makes all the calls when defenses are shifting and moving, and it hurt the running game. To get him back, LT said it best, this is the way this team was meant to play football. I mean, they roughed up on their opponent last week. I look for LT to continue his success.
Marshall, you know, early on in the first half of the season, Eli Manning was clicking. He was throwing touchdowns. Plaxico Burress was scoring every single week. But what has happened lately? I mean, they're 8-4. It's maybe the weakest 8-4 team I've seen. Are they going to break out of their funk against the Eagles this week?
We're looking for them, too. I mean, when you think about this defense and if you can keep them off the field, they can come out and make plays. But offensively, Eli has not looked good. And I can attribute that to later in the season, your star guys, especially you guys like Plexico and Shockey, when they get minor injuries, they don't practice as much. So that rapport that they have with a guy like Eli Manning, who struggles at times with accuracy, could really become a problem late in the season like we've seen. You get him in cold weather games where the ball looks like he has a problem handling it and throwing tight spirals, and everything comes into play. Hopefully they get it right. Find somebody to run the football and win a ball game.
Brett Favre, who incredibly entered the league a few years before you, Marshall, was just named Sports Illustrated Sportsman of the Year. Would you consider him in the running now for the NFL MVP award as well?
Without a doubt. I think when you look at the fact that what he's doing and the numbers that he has, they're comparable to what Tom Brady is doing and what Tom Brady is putting up. I think besides the touchdowns that Tom Brady has thrown, Brett Favre is right up there with him. Bad game against Dallas with the interceptions, but definitely you look at what Tom is doing, what Brett is doing, and say these numbers are more than worthy of a MVP, because they don't even compare to the numbers that he put up when he won the MVP.
All right, finally, Marshall, a stud, a dud, and a sleeper. And answer our trivia. Who won the Heisman Trophy back in 1992 when you finished second?
Well, my stud, I'm going with Tony Romo against the Lions. I have to admit, I felt like I needed to see more from Tony Romo before I considered him in that elite class, and he's proved me that he is one of the elite quarterbacks in this league. My dud, I'm going with Frank Gore, playing against the Vikings, the Minnesota Vikings. They do one thing, that's stop the run. They make you one-dimensional. That's not good for the 49ers and Frank Gore. And my sleeper, this kid last week, I picked him on a nationally televised game on NFL Network. I said, look for Ryan Grant to have a game. Look for him to have an even bigger game against the Oakland defense, who seemed to can't stop the run. And the 1992 Heisman was won by none other than Gino Torretta. Gino, I want my trophy back now.
I knew that was going to rub you the wrong way, because it was a crying shame. So anyway, Marshall Faulk, as always, thanks for taking a break from your NFL Network duty. Stay warm there in D.C., and we'll see you next week. And
I'm trying, guys. Let's see you next week.
Okay. We also want to thank BowDogFantasy.net for making Marshall's appearance happen. All right. Let the